Well, after spending the morning doing my income tax, geez, what a time suck that is. Decided to come down to the shop to shoot a little bit of video here. I found that there's a few universal truths in woodworking, well, maybe more than a few, but a couple that come to mind. Wood always moves, never enough space in your shop, and never enough time to do all the things you want to do. One that each one of us can work on improving is efficiency. And efficiency will lead to more productivity in the shop, which in effect means you can get more done. To be efficient, you don't need to spend a lot of money making yourself more efficient. It's all about techniques, I think. If you follow my blog at flairwoodworks.com, you'll probably know that I'm not one to kind of just go along with the flow, do whatever's been done for hundreds of years before just because that's the way it's been done. I'm not afraid to challenge convention. I think that there are a lot of unnecessary steps that we do along the way simply because that's the way we were taught, because it's the way that's been done for centuries before us. And if you free your mind, if you allow yourself to rethink what these processes are and how we can streamline them, I think you'll find that you can save a lot of time. I wanted to share a couple of my techniques with you here today. Take, for example, the dovetail joint. This is a very traditional joint, and it's very strong due to the interlocking nature of the two components. It's also quite a laborious process to do. First you cut one component, then you put the two components against each other and transfer the layout of the first to the second, and then you cut the second component, then you trim and fine tune it until the two parts fit together with a good fit. And that fit, you want to have a fairly tight fit because that gives it the mechanical strength. The glue helps a little, but you want to rely on that mechanical strength. To execute this joint quickly and efficiently, it takes a lot of practice. You need to be good with a handsaw, you need to be good with the chisel, and you need to know how to get the joint to fit well. If you're a practiced professional, doing a joint, one single joint might take maybe 5 minutes to put together. If you're not, it could take you half an hour or upwards of an hour fine-tuning it, and if you make one wrong cut, could be back to starting again. And if you're doing a drawer, of course, that means you have to get all 4 joints right, or else you're back to step 1. There are a couple different approaches to cutting it. One is to cut the tails first, one is to cut the pins first. To me, it makes sense to cut the pins first. To cut the tail first, that's like driving your car backwards down the street. Nobody does that. I figured out a process which saves probably about 60% of the time cutting this joint, and I'll show you how I do this. To help improve accuracy in this efficient technique, I built a special jig here. Simply a block of wood with a right angle bracket and a fence attached to it here. I slide my pin board yet to be cut underneath the fence. It's adjustable for height and positioning as I need. And normally I'd clamp this piece down. Then I take my tail board, which I've cut. So I've got my tails cut into the board. Make sure you line it the right way. You don't want it backward, otherwise you don't get that positive interlock. And it slips in like this here. I'll show you what I have in a second. This is basically an alignment jig to hold things in place. So you want to take your time getting it set up right. Like that. I've got my pin board held squarely on top of the tail board, yet to be cut, and I've got it flush here. Now, if you're at all experienced with dovetailing, your next step is to transfer the position of the pins onto the tail board. If you said that, you'd be wrong though. Have a look what I do here. Well, that didn't work. sometimes it takes 2 hits to get it. So unfortunately, my pin board split when I put it together. Usually I use longer stock. This was just a little sample I whipped up for this video. The stock might have been flawed as well with a crack in it, I don't know. But normally, if you imagine those 2 pieces together, you'd have them together like this. You've got your 2 tails now formed, and if I pull on that joint, that's a solid joint there. And yeah, this is not a perfect aesthetic joint, but a bit of sanding and some sawdust and glue in it look just sharp. Okay, so my dovetail joint is all glued up now. I repaired the split that I had in it. I'll just clean it up here. Again, really simple. Just start by putting it in a vise, make sure it's held steady. To clean up my joiner, I usually start with an angle grinder. Then I finish with a random orbit sander loaded with a 40 grit disc. Nice and smooth and flush there, looks nice. A lot of strength there. Now any little gaps you might have, like mine there, you can just fill with a bit of glue and sawdust. Usually there's lots of sawdust on the floor, so just get a handful of that and rub it in. Whatever goes in, whatever doesn't go in, that's fine, you can use it later. Don't forget the other side. Now, this is the side of the joint here. This will be the drawer side if this were such an application. And it's really less critical what the side looks like. I'll be putting a metal drawer slide on this. I think of drawer slides as like a moldings. They cover up the defects. Just light sanding again. There you have it. Dovetail done in half the time. The monster smell is good for more than just joinery. Take, for example, you've got a board that's just too wide. Now, you could buy a bandsaw or a table saw, but those cost hundreds if not thousands of dollars. And they take up a lot of space in a shop. You can do it by hand, that's just plain slow. If you combine the monstrous mallet with the whopping wedge, then you've got a real combination. To start the wedge, I use a simple handsaw. Just then a simple tap. If that happens, you've just lost your whopping wedge. Better go buy a table saw.